my pleasure to talk to Joanne Watters today. Joanne is the General Manager and Director for Intelligent Devices. So Joanne, thanks so much for joining us today. If you'd love to give a quick introduction to our audience.
Hi, Ainsley. Very nice to see you, and thank you so much for the invitation. I'm Joanne Watters, as you have mentioned, and I've been working in the adherence technology field for well over 17 years with the IMC group. And today we're here to talk about technology and how digital smart devices can actually help health innovation. I look forward to our chat.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll get right into it. So how do you perceive the current digital transformation within the health ecosystem, and what role do smart devices play in this transformation?
Yeah, so lots of different ways, right? So we see a lot of action since especially the pandemic when everyone was, had to stay at home, et cetera. And clinical trials and drug development still went on and patients still needed medication and we still had to continue. So, a lot of pivoting happened then. Our company in particular was instrumental prior to pandemic of offering what we would call like a decentralized type of trial, whereby patients can actually still participate and we can also help them with their medication management at home. So the trials have really changed in the clinical world where, you can come back to a clinic site, but you actually can now offer what they call a hybrid solution for decentralized trials, allow for what they call also remote monitoring. So patients in the pre-pandemic stage, they would come back to a clinic site with medication and use that medication, and then they would do the reconciliation, et cetera, at the site. Nowadays, we can actually do all of that remotely, and we see a lot of what we would call temperature sensitive products, like with a lot of the injectables that are now at home with patients. And so there's a lot of that monitoring that also has to become part of a critical supply chain. So there's lots of digital innovations and a lot of transformation when it comes to how are we changing from going to a site all the time, less frequent sites, more time at home with the patient. So I think that's where technology really comes in, and using things like smart devices and smart packaging that really help to elevate that experience for the patient, but also the care team.
And on the topic where you mentioned kind of that innovation piece, how has your company adapted its smart device solutions to be able to meet the evolving needs of the healthcare industry amidst the rapid digital advancements?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you can look back, even 5 years ago, people were not used to what the word a sensor was. They weren't necessarily used to this sort of contactless method of communicating, right? So the pandemic brought an awareness, let's say, and an ease of adoption for such things as Apple Pay and Google Pay, where you literally don't have to exchange money, you don't have to do anything, you just tap something, right? So in our world of technology, that's what we call a communication portal. So that communicates data from smart packaging and smart devices, and you can do that at home. So that's really where the sort of adoption of patients to know, oh, that's all you have to do is tap it just like that, and it makes it so much easier to communicate that data that patients have to help keep them on track with medicine, but also it helps our care teams understand how patients are taking medicine and how do we help them get back on track if they are falling off with their medication and treatment protocol.
And as you kind of mentioned, looking back at the past to now, what are your actual predictions for the future of smart devices in the healthcare industry, particularly in the list of ongoing digital transformations and emerging technologies like you mentioned?
Oh, yeah. So as an example, right? There are still many professions that allow sort of a hybrid employer relationship where employees can actually maybe work remotely 3 days a week. Maybe they don't have to go into the office as much either. So if you look at that in the context of running a clinical trial, as an example, if we can do that with our employees, why not keep that and pivot that with patients and going back to a clinic site, right? So the patient is just like an employer, they are doing the job. They don't have to go back to the clinic site as often, right? So that's actually, enrollment is one of the toughest things in a clinical trial is to get patients to participate, right? So if we can help them by accommodating that, and then, you know, the analogy as well, if you have an employee that you really want to keep engaged, obviously, you want to, you know, sort of, compromise. Okay, we'll let you do a couple, you know, days at remote, and then you come back into the office. Same idea as patients, right? And what's interesting is a lot of the Medicare, the CMS, they realize this remote therapeutic monitoring, this RTM, and all of these incentives are helping with the CMS system. And if we can keep patients from not being readmitted back to emerge, et cetera, that's a huge cost savings to healthcare. And using all of these digital technologies to help it's a normal thing now, right? We just have to do it as we normally do. So that's what's really cool about technology. But in supply chain, it's a huge thing because, you know, look at the Ozempic as an example. They're having a difficult time to keep up, but they're also having a difficult time to track where that medication is. And in these types of smart packaging solutions, that's where that really shines, is to bring that visibility and that last mile right to the patient's home. So it's really, really exciting time, actually.
Yeah, well, I know we, unfortunately don't have a lot of time on our session today. I could talk to you for much longer, as always, Joanne. But I love those thoughts on that. I think hybrid is definitely the way of the future, kind of having that collaboration of, being in office, being in the clinic, and also kind of being able to do things from the luxury of your own home. So, I think this is a great conversation. I would love to have you on again in the future. But thank you so much again, Joanne, for your time today.
All right. Thank you. All right. Take care. Bye.
Thanks, Joanne.